It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of Christmas Eve 1999. Basically, Christmas weekend in general. We have a lot of movies to get to here. 9 movies, so I'm not even going to waste any more time. We're just going to jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Oliver Stone's latest film, Any Given Sunday. So this is based off of a book called On Any Given Sunday, written by former NFL defensive end Pat Toomey, and the title is derived from a line in the book, and also used in the film, that a team can win or lose on any given Sunday, which you hear that nowadays on most NFL media, basically saying that, hey, any given Sunday, anybody can win no matter who it is. And you have a story here depicting a fictionalized professional football team coached by Al Pacino, a cast that includes Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, Jamie Foxx, James Woods, LL Cool J, Anne Margaret, Lauren Hawley, Matthew Modine, John C. McGinley, Charlton Heston, Bill Bellamy, Leela Rochon, Aaron Eckhart, Elizabeth Berkley. Features a ton of NFL players, past and present. Jim Brown, Lawrence Taylor, Dick Butkus, Y.A. Tittle, Pat Toomey, of course, Warren Moon, Johnny Unitas, Ricky Williams, Emmett Smith, Terrell Owens, Barry Switzer. I mean, they pack a ton of people into this movie. And, it's a pretty good movie. It's Oliver Stone doing what Oliver Stone does best. It doesn't have quite the same edge as something like, some of his earlier works. It's not the same kind of movie like Platoon or Born on the 4th of July or even JFK. It doesn't have that type of a level to it where it really exposes something that and just really gets the people thinking. It's just a really well-made film and a nice return to form for him after U-Turn was kind of seen as a major misstep in his career. And, it was a nice return. Like I said, it was a nice return to form for him. I think the performances overall are very good. The grittiness of the film very much is well done. It does run a little bit too long, though. It's over 2.5 hours long, and it does really get boring at times to the point where you really do you're just waiting for the end credits to come already so you can get out of there. For the most part, it delivers what it promises. It's a film that kind of delves into the trials and tribulations of running a professional football team. But like I said, it doesn't really go to the same levels that some of Stone's earlier works did, where they really just delve deep into the dark issues of many different things, like in Platoon or Born on the 4th of July or JFK. I think those movies do that a whole lot better. This is just a really good film for him, and a nice return to form after his last film kind of crapped out a little bit of his success factor he had going for him at that point. But, really good film. Not one of his best films, but one that I always go back to every once in a while. I think it's a well enough made film to recommend it. Definitely check out Any Given Sunday. So, on to the next movie: Matt Damon, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Talented Mr. Ripley. So not only is this Anthony Mangillo's follow-up to his Oscar-winning Best Picture, The English Patient, this is also the first film based off of Patricia Highsmith's character, Tom Ripley, who has been seen in many different, who is the focus of the novel of the same name, The Talented Mr. Ripley. This takes place in the 1950s, and it stars Damon as Ripley, an underachieving young man that is sent from New York City to Italy to retrieve Dickie Greenleaf. Dickie Greenleaf, I believe, is played by Jude Law. Yeah, Jude Law. I'm thinking of... he's a rich, spoiled playboy, convinces him to return home. However, after failing, Ripley takes extreme measures. And you have characters that are also played by Gwyneth Paltrow, Cate Blanchett, Philip Seymour Hoffman. And the performances really do carry this film over. It's a really intense psychological thriller. Even if you never read these books, which I never read these books before I saw this film, you get so invested in the characters and you get so... It's a deep character study, and just so many great moments in this film of really great performances. Philip Seymour Hoffman alone in this movie has maybe one of the best lines in the movie, where he's just looking at Matt Damon as he's looking at, this couple, Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow, having sex in the boat, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's just giving this look like, Tommy, how's you peeping? And it's just the way his face looks and the way he just looks at him, it's just like that's a great performance from him, and that's just another one of those great roles you look at and say, this guy's really going to be something in the next couple of years. And sure enough, he would eventually win an Oscar, but we'll get to that when we get to Capote in about 6 years. But yeah, this is a really good film. I actually prefer this film over The English Patient by a long shot. I was not a big fan of The English Patient. I thought it was I was kind of like Elaine from Seinfeld on that film. I thought it was boring. I didn't really like it all that much. I would have been that person screaming in the theater saying I hated it and telling everybody to go to hell, but But this film is, I think, a really good film. I think it's a really good mystery. It's a really good thriller. It has a lot of inspiration that's been taken several years after its release. I know Family Guy did an episode based off of the story in this episode too. But it's a really good film. I definitely recommend it. The Talented Mr. Ripley. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. A movie that should have been way better than it actually ended up being. This is one of those movies that has so much potential to it. The things in there are so close to being perfect, and then it just really craps out in a number of different ways. You basically have the story taking place from Kaufman's steps from childhood to the comedy clubs and television appearances that made him famous, including moments on Saturday Night Live, Late Night with David Letterman, Fridays, his role as Latka on Taxi, and it pays attention to the various inside jokes, scams, put-ons, and happenings what Kaufman was famous for, most significantly his battle with Jerry the King Lawler and his portrayal of the character, the lounge singer Toady Clifton. And later on down the road, there was a documentary made about Jim Carrey's performance as Andy Kaufman, basically saying that his performance was maintained during much of the film's production. They try to make you think like Andy Kaufman just suddenly possessed this performance by Carrey, and that's why he plays the character the way this is in this film. It's trying to make this film seem like a Heart of Darkness type of film, and really, I can't really personally delve into everything that's wrong with this film. I think the Nostalgia Critic did a great video a couple years ago talking about everything that this movie should have been. Jim Carrey, I think, is really good as Andy Kaufman. I think he definitely is the strongest part of the movie. But everything else around him, just like the way the movie tries to pretend like everything is is like, it tries to create like what's the word I want to look for here? Its basic struggles really come down to the typical biopic cliches. It doesn't really want to go deep into the darker elements of Andy Kaufman's life. It just wants to be this peppy, happy, everything it was perfect, and he just unfortunately died for no reason. It tries to pull the Bohemian Rhapsody type of crap. Like the whole thing about how it doesn't want to go into the dark stuff because it wants to have kind of like a mass appeal. And with a biopic, you really don't want to get those moments out of there. I mean, Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic that came out just shortly after Bohemian Rhapsody, was a far superior movie because it didn't shy away from showing the darker elements of Elton John's life. I mean, there have been great movies like that really show the darker side of things, and this is one of those movies that really wants to do nothing but make this guy seem like the most happiest person in the world, and like the most cleanest person in the world, and that's not really what happened in life. I mean, they try to do those elements there, but it never feels like you really get the idea that they're trying to do just that, and it really struggles because of that. Not to mention, there are so many moments in this movie where they have all these different personalities from the past in there. They're not even like dressed as they were back in the 70s and 80s. Like David Letterman is just playing David Letterman. Lorne Michaels is just playing Lorne Michaels. What he wasn't looking like in 1999. Same thing with David Letterman. It's just like, you really got to do better than that guy. Seriously. It's just like the cast of Taxi. Everybody is the same age they were in 1999. It's supposed to take place in the late 70s, early 80s, and like you've got all these guys with like gray hair and all that, and looking like the way they did, and it's just like it really misses the mark on everything they were trying to go for here. And it's a shame because this is a story that really could be well done, and they got a great actor to play him in Jim Carrey, but I don't know what happened to it. I've never seen the documentary. I've heard it's pretty ridiculous. Like, it's kind of like an I'm Not There type of situation, like with Joaquin Phoenix. But I don't know. I can't really say for certain because I haven't seen it. But I've heard that it goes way too far-fetched than it has any right to. But the movie is just a mess. It's an unfortunate mess, too, because there are elements to it where it does work. There are elements that actually are well done. But too many of those elements get pushed aside because of the fact that they took these decisions and it didn't work out in the end. It made for a really generic biopic that could have been so much better considering the effort that Carrey put into this, and it just didn't work in the long run, unfortunately. So unfortunately I have to say skip that one, but let's go to a movie that people should see, and that is Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, and Alan Rickman in the comedy Galaxy Quest. So if you don't know what Galaxy Quest is, shame on you, but it's basically a parody of and an homage to science fiction films and series, most notably Star Trek and its fandom. The film depicts the cast of a fictional cult television series, Galaxy Quest, who are drawn into a real interstellar conflict by actual aliens who think the series is an accurate documentary. And as I mentioned, Alan Weaver and Rickman are among the cast, including Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, and Daryl Mitchell. This is a really damn good movie. It's a film that parodies and satirizes the Star Trek fan base, but it also really honors them too. I mean, a lot of the several Star Trek cast and crew members really did praise the film, and some people have literally considered this to be part of that the Star Trek film series, even though this is not a Star Trek film. Even though this film is now technically part of Paramount Pictures now, since they bought all the DreamWorks' films, but this movie really is funny. Even if even if you've never seen a Star Trek episode, you can really just get into the storyline alone and just be like, this is really damn funny stuff. This is probably the best film Tim Allen has ever done. I mean, honestly, this is probably the funniest film he's ever been involved in. The writing is top notch. The visuals still hold up even after all these years. The casting is incredible. It's just an amazing, amazing film, and it did not get the proper respect it did back then. It was kind of the perfect sum up of the year. All these great movies that came out in 1999, and you have all these. Some of them were a lot of them were big hits, but then you get these little gems that did not get the proper respect at first, but later went on to have cult followings in the years since then. This film definitely has had that legacy, and it's well deserved. It's a well made film. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen Galaxy Quest, do yourself a favor and watch it, man. It's definitely worth it in the end. So with that said, on to our next movie, and that is Angelina Jolie and Winona Ryder in Girl Interrupted. James Mangold's follow-up to Copland. This follows a young woman who spends 18 months institutionalized in a psychiatric hospital following a suicide attempt. And this woman is Winona Ryder. Angelina Jolie is one of the other people in this hospital, along with Clea Duvall, Brittany Murphy, Elizabeth Moss. Jared Leto's also in here. Angela Betts, Jeffrey Tambor, Vanessa Redgrave, Whoopi Goldberg. Angelina Jolie won the Academy Award for this for Best Supporting Actress. I don't even think Winona Ryder herself was nominated for this, honestly. The performances in here, I think, are what carry it overall. It does feel like it's trying to be the next generation. Is this generation's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which that's a film that's really hard to top, even by today's standards. But this film, I think, tried its best to try to come close to it, but it didn't quite get there as much as I think they wanted it to. But the real reason to check this movie out are the two performances by Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. You can tell they put their all into this movie, and it really does show on screen. It really is the best elements of the film. A lot of the film itself is just kind of a little bit too cliched, riddled, and too Oscar baitish for its own good. And I think that's where it really struggles in the end. But like I said, the real reason you check this movie out is to see the performances by Ryder and Jolie. You don't get disappointed by that whatsoever. It makes the film almost more than worth it in the end. But for a one-time watch, it's definitely good. But the best thing you can say about it is that Ryder and Jolie really do keep the what am I trying to say here? Keep the enjoyment of the film going. I mean, it's a really well-made film, but it's one of those ones where you can watch it once and be satisfied with it, and you really will not have another reason to really check it out again after the next time you see it. I mean, like I said, you watch it for the performances. It's definitely worth it for those. But other than that, though, it's good. It's a really good film. I do recommend it. So that's Girl Interrupted. On to our next film, Angela's Ashes. Yeah, it's probably not a good sign for a movie if the writer of the book is doing nothing but praising that his film adaptation that he had a hand in for a good 2/4 of that 2/3 of that commercial. But this is based off the best-selling autobiography by Frank McCord. Angela's Ashes follows the experiences of young Frankie and his family as they try against all odds to escape the poverty endemic in the slums of pre-war Limerick. It opens with the family in Brooklyn, but following the death of one of Frankie's siblings, they return home only to find the situation there even worse. Prejudices against Frankie's Northern Irish father makes his search for employment in the Republic difficult despite him having fought for the IRA, and when he does find money, he spends it on nothing but drinks. But This is Alan Parker's second to last film as a director. The next film he would do, that his last film would be, is The Life of David Gale with Kevin Spacey. But this film here, I really don't remember too much about it. I've always seen this picture, this poster I'm looking at right here of this kid on the front of it. It looks like it's kind of trying to be like the 500. It's kind of like how Girl Interrupted was trying to be the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for this generation. This feels like it was trying to be the 500 Blows for this generation, because I got a lot of 500 Blows type of mentalities looking at the poster and the trailer for this. Never seen the film, never heard anyone really saying that you need to see this film, but probably isn't too bad, honestly. But I've had no real interest in actually seeing the film at any point, so I don't know. Maybe one day I will, but not anytime soon. So, moving on to the next film, Snow Falling on Cedars. So the story here is that you have a Japanese-American fisherman accused of killing his neighbor at sea. In the 1950s, race figures into the trial, and so does reporter Ishmael. Ishmael is played by Ethan Hawke. James Cromwell is also here as the judge. Max von Sydow, Richard Jenkins, James Rebhorn, Sam Shepard. Good cast overall here. This is directed by Scott Hicks, who gave us Shine a couple years ago. Another one I've never seen before. I've always seen the posters for this, but I've never really had the urge to go and watch it. Doesn't look like it has the best reviews overall, so probably a movie I won't be checking out anytime soon. I've never had anybody really say that it's actually a good film or not, but could be good. Not much more to say about that one. So on to the next film, Julie Taymor's Titus. Hey, I don't see Christopher Titus anywhere. What the hell is this? It's interesting how this movie came out, and then Christopher Titus had a show come out, not but a couple weeks after it came out. But very funny, underrated show, by the way. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But we're not talking about that one. This is Julie Taymor in her directorial debut after her time on is in Broadway. This is adapted from William Shakespeare's revenge tragedy Titus Andronicus, and stars Anthony Hopkins as the titular Roman general, chronicling his downfall and returning victoriously from war. And you have Jessica Lange, Alan Cumming, Cole Fiore, Angus McFadden, Matthew Rhys, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, and Julie Taymor really makes some visually pleasing looking films, but she's only made a couple of films, mostly staying on Broadway for the most part. She did this, she did Frida, and then she did Across the Universe, which I really liked Across the Universe, and I've only seen little bits and pieces of Frida, but her films have these gorgeous visual looks to them that really do stand out on these films, and this is one of those films that definitely has a nice visual look to it. Anthony Hopkins is very good in the film, Jessica Lange is very good in the film. It's everything you expect from them. It's a decent little film. It's a film that I would say that it's one I haven't seen in a while, but I've seen a lot of Julie Taymor's other film roles, directorial efforts. I think stuff like Across the Universe and Frida are much better movies. This is a really solid film overall, one that a lot of people haven't really looked at, honestly, or really even heard of for the most part, but it's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch just for the visual look alone. I think that's the most impressive thing about it. That's really the one thing I would say to definitely check this movie out for, is the visual style of it, but you'll really like the performances for the main characters as well. I think those are very well done too. So with that said, on to our last film, and that is Play It to the Bone. This is one of those movies I would always see in like a used video store and used DVD store, and I would see many copies of this movie. I've never heard anybody ever talk about this film. This is a film that stars Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas as two boxers and best friends who travel to Las Vegas in order to fight each other for the sake of a chance to compete for the middleweight title. And you also have Lolita Davidovich, Tom Sizemore, Lucy Liu, and Robert Wagner among the cast. Directed and written by Ron Shelton. And Ron Shelton's made a lot of good films up to this point. Bull Durham, Blaze, White Man Can't Jump, Tin Cup. This film in particular, I don't really know too much about, because I've never seen the film. Like I said, I've always seen it in places like Half Price Books, CD Warehouse, these places where they would have used DVDs and videos and all that. And I've always wanted to check it out. I've just never really gotten the urge to do it. Nothing has really told me, you need to see this movie. You need to see this you need to see this movie. And nobody's ever said, definitely see this movie. And I see the reviews for this are not the greatest here. So chances are this movie probably isn't as good as some of his other works. But I don't know. I mean, it's got got too many good cast members in here that I really do like that could make this work overall. But like I said, I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say too much about it, unfortunately. But maybe I should check it out one day, just because I just want to see if it's if you know, I got this weird thing, like if I see multiple copies of something like a movie or a TV show, and so it's just basically the world telling me you should probably see this, even if it's bad, even if it's not great overall. You should see this at one point. So maybe if I can find this somewhere at a reasonable price, I probably will check it out. But it probably won't be anytime soon, though. But that's Played to the Bone. So with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, it's the first official weekend of the 21st century. Even though this weekend starts on a Friday in 1999, the next day will be January 1st, 2000. So we got two movies to look at. The first one being the first major release of 2000, Fantasia 2000, the long-awaited sequel to the original Fantasia, and we also have Denzel Washington with his film The Hurricane. So two movies to look at to enter the new millennium in. And with that said, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys tomorrow to wrap up the 20th century of movies. And until then, as always, take care.